side a best of 3. Well, this is it. The one best 3 that truly matters. If you lose here, your tournament is done. If you win, you move on into the playoffs. In the top right side, we are looking at the main base of the Brazilian Zerg player representing the Cranky Ducklings. It is Erik.
And in the bottom left-hand side, the TerraN player.
That's it?
That's it. No team? I mean, I could say TerraN twice, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for that. The blue TerraN.
The blue TerraN.
I'm excited to watch him play. Because obviously we didn't get to cast him yesterday. We did follow the games, especially that game 2 on Backend, like we mentioned a few times already. But I've been impressed by this young man. I've played quite a few times against him on the European server. I was like, damn, who the hell is this guy called TerraN? Is this a Smurf from one of the Euro boys? If so, who is it? You know, I was ready to beat one of them up. I'm like, stop taking all my ladder points. And then it turned out that it was just a Brazilian TerraN player. And I was like, oh, okay. Como estas? I know that's Spanish, but I was like, what's up? And then we kept battling for a little while, and I thought it was really cool to make a new little ladder body, and at the same time be impressed by a new face of the Latin American scene.
Most definitely. And props to Kelleser in a weird way, because he was really big on pushing the Brazilian scene. And you see that the Brazilian scene has really flourished. And not just by Kelleser being like a, like a staple player in Brazil, but rather trying to do something like like he really looks up to Fallen, who is like the Brazilian face of Counter-Strike. And he tried to do something very similar. And Kelleser was very good at organizing tournaments for Brazilians only, and you see that it's paid off, right? Like the Brazilian scene is really, really strong at this point.
And it's definitely true. I mean, Turkey Dano is building cannons as we speak, more motivated than ever before. All right, let's keep a close eye on these openings. What can I tell you guys about TerraN? Well, not too much about his TVZ, because this is one of the very first times I ever have the opportunity to cast him. But I've always just been kind of impressed by his standard gameplay. You know, he plays pretty straightforward, doesn't do anything too wild or too cheeky. He just likes to get a proper economy going and be active out on the map, set up a couple drop ships here and there, harass with Liberators. Especially his Liberator harass is very good in TVP. Let's see if he brings that to TVZ as well.
We have to wait and see indeed. Let's see what this Reaper not really able to find much of anything, and a good job by Erik sneaking out that third already.
Ooh, so that is a very early Roach Warren, mate.
It's a very early Roach Warren, and that's a very early third into Hellions on the side of TerraN. So, I mean, if Erik commits to this, and TerraN doesn't catch wind of it, I can't imagine he's going to be holding this one.
Yeah, but Erik doesn't always commit though, right? Erik is the kind of Zerg that likes to make the 6-7 Roaches, run them to the other side of the map, be annoying with them. But then he just macros up behind it. Well, sometimes it would indeed be better to just go balls to the wall, all in, and never look back.
Yeah, this Queen's a little bit off position. Like one of them was sitting to the side. Fortunately for Erik, the next one pops in just in time so that the Reaper doesn't choose to commit. Had it committed, it could have spotted that Roach Warren. We'll see if Erik is going to be committing or not. This is, I mean, it's the least suspecting map in the map pool. It's a map where you would go for 3 CCs and usually be pretty safe. And again, neither of us got to watch, or maybe you watched some of the series, but I'm not sure that you watched the opening on this map. That's also to be taken into account to some degree, right? Now, it might have been that TerraN was overly greedy or something like that, and Erik's looking to punish. But TerraN's gonna catch wind of the Roaches pretty early.
Easy, yep. Easy. I mean, that first Banshee is already halfway done. We know that Roaches are making their way to the other side of the map. Erik does not have Zergling speed. So even if he would want to continue pressuring, he doesn't really have the option, right? Unless it's slow Roaches all day, every day. But you know that that's eventually going to run out of steam. I'm not really feeling this for Erik, because now it just seems like, well, maybe these were just defensive Roaches. He didn't want to be aggressive at all. He's like, I'm not going to make Zergling speed. So I'm going to need at least a couple of units to keep the Hellions at bay.
Yeah, if they weren't defensive before, they definitely are now. He hasn't added any more. He's added now Spores instead, and is cranking out some Ducklings. Just kidding, some drones.
I knew you were going to say that too. The moment you said cranking, I was like... Oh,
I didn't until I said crank.
Yeah, no, but I made the connection immediately in my brain. I was like, he's going to say Ducklings now.
Yeah, me too. And then I was like, I'm going to say Ducklings now, aren't I?
Yeah, you started going down that hill, couldn't stop yourself.
Indeed.
9 Hellions. That's quite a few.
That is a good chunk indeed. Surprising too against roaches, but it could work out really well. Let's see what Erik is gonna do. I mean, he only made these units. I mean, it's less roaches, less investment into roaches than you would normally have into Zerglings. In a weird way, it's gonna work out well economically for him.
Look what TerraN is doing. He's going full Jaedong on us, okay? Jaedong is like 2 groups of Mutalisks. That's cool. Okay, for a split second, I thought that TerraN was going to show Hellions and his Reaper on the left side, but then use the other Hellions to dive into the third and potentially take down a couple drones, which, you know, honestly, would have been a sexy play.
It would have been pretty sexy indeed. Let's see if these Banshees can find something regardless here. At the third of Erik.
Couple drones, right? Easy. There's so many drones here.
Yeah, the Spore not really well positioned for Banshees. You usually want 1 Hex out, but this is a huge move on the side of TerraN. There's not that much to defend from Erik, so it's gonna be slow to clear this. Yes, the Hellions are never gonna beat the roaches, but they're doing plenty already. A lot of the drones do get saved. Only 7 have gone down, and I say only 7 because I expected a lot more to go down. Good control from Erik to mitigate damage there. No Evo Chamber, though. I feel like he could have used an Evo Chamber block on the other side, and 16 workers total. Now, I'm not even sure if that counted the earlier kills from the Banshee or not.
Yeah, I think it did, but a couple queens went down too. Don't lose your Banshee here, TerraN, and he doesn't. I think it was still a pretty successful attack in the end. 18 drones and 2 queens for 10 Hellions and 1 Banshee. I think most TerraN players would take it.
I think so as well, and there is really less of a downside in doing this in the sense that because Erik has been so heavy on roaches and hasn't really committed any to Lings, there's not really any counterattack potential, right? And sometimes you don't want to lose your Hellions because then you might be exposing yourself to a counter offense and you might die because the Lings are at the very least are gonna poke, and they would have found basically nothing, but there's no Lings.
And while all of that was taking place afterwards, Erik actually had 12 drones just idling near his Evo chamber, and it took him a little while to fix that. So it's not just the drones that he lost, but he also lost some additional mining time. It took him a solid 10-15 seconds after the attack to actually send those drones back to mining. But he's still in it. I mean, 67 drones. We're starting to get a few more roaches out. He does have super early pathogen glands, so the infestors are going to drop some fungals. It's been a while since I've seen some fungals, Cat, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it can be pretty powerful. I mean, when the fungal stopped rooting, this kind of style died off. But I don't know if that's justified because it still slows down the units enough that it's very, very difficult to split against corrosive piles. So we'll see if Erik can do something here. It's important that he gets a big fungal to start things off, especially if he feels like he's behind. The infestors being revealed are gonna make it at some point so that TerraN will be pre-splitting and being really careful about that. Whereas the first attack is usually a clumped up attack, and you can get that fungal good.
And TerraN already has double factory, which obviously is a lovely thing to have up and running against roaches. He's going up to 8 barracks now while being on 4 bases soon. He's gonna set up a couple of drops. I mentioned that I thought his multitasking was pretty good in the past. Well, he can now show that off, right? Because the doors are wide open if there are no Mutas or Hydras out on the map.
Yeah, and actually TerraN choosing to just drop here. A very good fungal. And there is the corrosive piles. We'll get rid of one of those medevacs right away. The other one unable to load while it's fungaled. So only 3 Marines remain. Not much of a threat. And a good clear from Erik.
Yep, very good. Maybe a little bit silly with TerraN to drop there in the end, but hey, easy to speak afterwards. TerraN will be able to get a quick cancel on this 5th hatchery of Erik on the top side of the map. Yeah, that 4th base already up and running. That's not an easy thing to do as a Zerg player, especially not if you take economic damage early on, which he absolutely did.
Yeah, and TerraN very quick to the economy as well, even with 2 of those sensor towers very early on, and it's so difficult to attack into those as Zerg. So I love that he's doing that while taking a very fast 5th, right? Because it's so discouraging for the attack of a Zerg player that you can get away with kind of murder.
It's crazy how Erik has been playing. Like, Erik has not even seen the 3rd base, not to mention the 4th base. He knows that they're there because of the sensor towers, unless this would be a 200 IQ future sensor tower, where they drop a sensor tower, but they'll actually have 4 bases. But I've only seen one TerraN player in the history pull that one off, so I'm sure Erik knows that the bases are there, but it's a bit insane to see a Zerg that hasn't seen it yet.
A future is the player you saw?
Yeah, he did it
Oh,
once.
cool. Very cool.
Well, I think he wanted to expand, but then he just forgot, and then he was just all in, you know?
Nah, I don't know. You're telling me that Future wasn't planning to all in? That seems less likely.
True. Couple of fungos do land on the tanks. Roaches and Hydras going in real deep. Not too many bio units remain. Erik,
nice
are you
tiles.
sure you can win this fight? It seems like the answer is yes, and he does win it. Well done by Erik.
Yeah, and I love how patient and how composed he was at not using all of his fungals as well. Because it would have been overkill on many of those. So he gets the good fungal and then he stops out. Not the greatest fungal there, but the second one is good and he's going to get rid of even more units here. Erik gaining a very strong position forward whilst he transitions into those very annoying lurkers.
He had to deal with a drop in his main and a drop in the natural at the same time. He did take some damage and he isn't really mining. Like, you know, the lost couple extractors here. Some of the gases are not fully saturated. It's starting to get scrappy, but that just seems to happen when these two are going to duke it out with each other.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I also like that Erik is going into lurkers because as far as I can remember, he was kind of the first player to really push this style against TerraN. I remember it was a game against Time a few years ago. And everyone was like, yes. And everyone was like, whoa, you know, like lurkers against TerraN. And it actually worked. You know, he beat a much better player than himself, at least, you know, as far as people were concerned. So it's good to see him return to this style, and he seems to feel confident enough that he doesn't need to scout at all while doing it, right?
That was the best game I've ever seen Erik play.
That was great, yeah.
The multitasking, all the Nidus networks, the lurkers popping in and out. I guess Time had no idea what was happening. Erik looked so damn good in that one.
He really did. He accomplished a great deal of chaos, and like you said, Time really didn't know what to do. We'll see if he can do the same against his Brazilian counterpart.
I think TerraN is quite familiar with that style, and I think he's also very familiar with just how Erik plays in general. I mean, these guys have played over 20 times against each other in a competitive environment. You start picking up on a lot of things your opponent likes to do and what they struggle with.
For sure. I do love that Erik is adding extra spine crawlers. It's something that that a lot of Stark players don't do, but it buys you so much time so that you can maneuver and walk around this army that's otherwise a little bit clunkier than the Mutiling Bane, which can move more freely, right? Like this army needs to anchor itself. Oh, these ghosts.
This is chaos. I mean, there's a massive drop on the top side. Meanwhile, the TerraN army of TerraN is also trying to make some progress in the bottom right with tanks and goals. But while all of this is taking place, Erik is going to try to counter with Zerglings and kills a command center. You heard that right. Kill the command center with just Zerglings. I don't know. Everybody's throwing everything they have at each other here, cats.
Yes, indeed. A lot of multitasking here on both sides. It's going to be difficult for Erik to really spread himself. And these infestors actually not being paid attention to. One will fall. There's another two with fungals. Actually, one fungal stopping the snipe, but the second snipe goes through to kill it. Hydras being, you know, spawned into their deaths. And this base will be taken down.
That's bad, though. Those were the 4 infestors with energy on the right side. All of them went down, while at the same time the hatchery indeed went down on the top side. It just felt that Erik lost a lot of important units that he's going to have a very difficult time to replace.
Yeah, and position as well, right? Like if this base goes down, it's going to be very difficult for him to recover. Behind this, TerraN has already taken a 5th. Erik looking for a flank to drop those blinding clouds, but not able to find it onto the tanks. Regardless, he has consolidated his army, and it seems like it's going to be enough to push TerraN back for the time being. But if he doesn't get more than this, I feel like he's still in a very difficult position.
I think so too, man. After that, losing the base in the top side, losing all the infestors on the right, losing a couple of his static defenses too. Like, he won the fight, but he didn't even really win it decisively. And yeah, exactly, he lost a whole bunch of drones too. I think Erik is in a lot of trouble here in game 1.
He really is, and he's gonna struggle to lock down those bases as well. When the attack happened, he at least had some spines at the northern base. This time around, if TerraN goes for a similar tactic again, I'm not sure what Erik's gonna do. It's gonna be even harder.
Yeah, I think TerraN can take his sweet time, like make sure that he gets his sensor towers up again, make sure the command centers morph into planetary fortresses. We could wait for +3 here if we are the TerraN, but I also wouldn't mind starting to move out because he is maxed out and he's just got a better army. The only thing he doesn't really have is a lot of ghosts. We've got 3 or 4. it's going to be a bit difficult to run into 12 lurkers. Apparently, he's going to try. He throws down the scan. There was one lurker that was actually not part of the scan, but somehow that one went down too. And TerraN is not even respecting the lurkers at this point.
Yeah, and this position seems impossible to break at this point from Erik. He's going for a little bit of a counter attack instead. And I kind of like that, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Maybe if he can kill this base, maybe he can look to restabilize later into the game. I mean, he's killing a lot of SCVs, actually. 16 have gone down. Good target fire here to kill a 20th. And now this ghost.
Can we save the planetary? It seems like the answer is yes. My goodness, what a save.
Oh, wow.
I really thought this planetary was super dead, as there were almost no SCVs left to repair it and still 5 or 6 lurkers. That's an insane save by TerraN.
Yeah, it looked like it. And I think that if Erik had sieged his lurkers a step forward, right, like then it would have been very easy to clear those SCVs much quicker. And the planetary doesn't stand much of a chance, but very well identified from TerraN that he could save it. And with that, I mean, it's becoming more and more difficult for Erik. TerraN's army complexity has gone up, and Erik not able to find anything.
I think we can do something with whole position workers. We almost need a desperation play.
Yeah. I think I would have loved that, yeah. I think that would have been the way, right? Like if you clear the entire army because it's not, they're walking on top of lurkers, then you're back. And that was enough lurkers to make it happen too. Hey, the bunker gets taken down in this base alongside 8 SCVs. So TerraN just down to 50. If Erik can hold this attack off somehow, maybe he can start stabilizing.
Okay, setting up the lurkers. They are in hold position. Erik, oh my goodness, what a play. What a play by Erik, man. That's insane. Well done.
Very, very well done. And yeah, I mean, you called it, Roddy. Like that was the kind of play that he needed to pull off. And we were just talking about it. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, he's a little bit ahead in workers. And things don't look quite as dire, right? If it was like 95% in favor of TerraN before, I'd say it's like a 65-35 now.
Yeah, especially because the ghost count is not starting to reach scary numbers. Like, Erik technically doesn't have a very technical army. He's got a crap ton of lurkers, that's about it. 15 lurkers, we have a few hydras on the map, there is 1 viper, but it basically all comes down to lurkers. But if TerraN will just continue making marines and marauders and doesn't increase the ghost count, he's gonna have a very difficult time taking care of 18 lurkers.
Yeah, he really will. He is producing 2 tanks at a time, so that's gonna help a little bit. The ghosts can also just zone out the vipers with his composition if there's enough tanks, and his army is very chunky. Like, he has a lot of marauders. So the last thing that you want is definitely marines against this sort of army composition by Erik. It's still very scary. As a TerraN, I find lurkers to be the most difficult thing to deal with, but TerraN does have the right army for it.
These burrowed zerglings that Erik has had on the left side has given him so much information. And now he has once more put the lurkers in a spot. And TerraN's not going to fall for it again, though. He lands a couple of snipes, lands the EMP on the infestor, and picks off quite a few lurkers immediately. Decent try there by Erik, but TerraN wasn't going to be fooled twice.
Yeah, and this was beautiful as well, because actually lurkers and ghosts have the same range. So the cloak working in the favor of TerraN to where the lurkers couldn't see the ghosts. And by the time the overseers make it there, it's already too late. And now it looks like TerraN, after clearing all of these lurkers, is gonna situate himself in this position yet again. And I feel like if he's able to take down this base, it might be lights out for Erik. So Erik is quick to bring all of his lurkers to defend, and actually pushing TerraN back for now.
I mean, there is a fight happening on the right side too, though, and 2 or 3 lurkers is simply not going to be enough to keep this hatchery safe. TerraN pounces on it. He's going to take all of them out, get on top of the hatchery. Erik is counterattacking with a few zerglings that have made it all the way into the TerraN main base. You don't see that super often, but the numbers aren't really there for a Zerg player. Meanwhile, the TerraN army is still knocking on his front door.
Yes, indeed. Those ghosts this time around being met by a spore. This Zerg is still not taken care of. Could burrow those, maybe just to force a scan or something of the likes. Scans are going to be sparse, especially where there is lurkers to be scanning all the time. So if you can mix in some burrow just to be extra annoying, that would be amazing. Erik's still struggling to stabilize. Gonna take care of these 2 tanks at least as soon as they unsiege.
Yeah, but during all of this, TerraN has picked up his bio units, went into the main base, kind of like the blinding cloud there, making it a bit more awkward for these marines and marauders to find the damage that they've been looking for. But while this is taking place, 13 drones have gone down. The hatchery does fall on the left side. I mean, these guys are really giving it their all. Just seems that TerraN has a little more to work with here in game 1.
Yeah, Erik down to less than 1 mining base at this point after that one gets taken care of. Looking for the weak medevac, not gonna find it unfortunately with the Hydras. And it's now okay, well, the Spore will do it, but it's difficult to believe that that Erik will be able to pull it back now, right? Like, he just doesn't have the economy.
No, he really has no economy. Like you said, you're like less than 1 mining base, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, you know what, Cats, you are right. He's got 3 mineral patches up and running at this point.
It's no bueno, yeah.
I can hear Maynard scream from Australia to here, that's nothing! And I'm like, I know, Maynard, it is nothing.
You would be right. And now, I mean, Erik knows that he has to make something happen right here, right now. He's going to try to get a good position with the lurkers, but TerraN also anticipating that Erik has to do something, repositions his army, will lose 2 command centers, but he can easily afford that. And as long as this planetary fortress doesn't go down, he's not going to have much to worry about.
TerraN units look so derpy when they're shooting at the changelings. They're like, they took all of them out.
The tanks trying to do what they can, but there isn't really anything that Erik can do to even get rid of those tanks. The Viper doesn't have any energy, so as soon as those tanks are in position, he has to just pick up and leave. But when he picks up and leave, he has to go somewhere else because he has to do something. Something has to come of this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been a scrappy game, so Erik doesn't know what we know. And for all he knows, TerraN is about as broke as he is. He might think like, okay, you've got that base in the bottom running, but that's kind of it. He's got a burrowed Zergling on the left side, but I don't know if that burrowed Zergling is actually aware of the fact that there's an orbital on its left, because units that are burrowed don't see that much. Maybe Erik thinks this game is actually a lot closer than we know it is.
Yeah, no, I think there was another burrowed Zergling where the CC now is. Oh no, but this one would have been cleared out too, right? So maybe not. But yeah, I mean, he's pretty dead. And yeah, he's about to find out, I guess, if he didn't know yet.
Yep, he's gonna try to counter one more time with a few links, grab a couple SCVs. This is nice and all, but the TerraN army is quite powerful at this point. There are 15 Ghosts, 4 tanks, 11 Marauders, and basically what TerraN can do at this point is start sniping Zerglings. And when you start sniping Zerglings, you know you're in a very good position.
Larva, start sniping larva. That's a statement.
That's the get out of my game.
Yep.
The 2021 equivalent of Manamuse, snipe larva.
Hell yeah. These lurkers are gonna clear a couple of ghosts. Erik finally situating himself at a 4th base.
What about EMPing Overseers? That's a statement too, I think.
That would be a statement as well. You're getting annoyed by the changelings, you know?
Yeah, you're like, no more.
EMP him. Well, instead he's gonna go for a nuke. That's another type of statement as well. I would say.
Yeah, that's also a get out of my game kind of statement.
It really is.
I mean, Erik, of course, doesn't know what we know. This is a big match for him. There is obviously a big increase in money if you make it into the playoffs here at the DreamHack SC2 Masters Summer. So I understand he's giving it his all, and he's actually going to take out the orbital. That's going to make him feel even better about his chances in this game.
Yeah, it's a huge deal of pride as well, because he is the #2 in Brazil for a very long time, you know? And I mean, when there is like regional rivalries like that, like I've had it for Latin America, then I've had it for Peru, right? I hate losing against other Peruvians.
Of course.
Like even today, whenever I play against a fellow Peruvian, even if they're way better, I will just sit up straight and, you know, try my best because because I feel like they're my countrymen, and like there's a another degree of pride that goes into it. So I'm sure TerraN really wants this, and Erik really doesn't want to lose.
Like what basically happened is that they're all one big Brazilian family, right? But then the dad has left the house. And he looked at his oldest son, and that was Erik. He's like, you're in charge now. But now the little brother, TerraN, has grown up, and he started beating up the big brother, even though he got his dad's blessing that he was the man of the house. I feel like TerraN is trying to become the man of the house, with Kalazur living in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I see. He did leave Brazil. I see what you mean, yeah. You're right. So we are talking about Brazilian supremacy as far as like the best player in Brazil.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
the king of
Brazil?
Brazil.
We're about to find out.
Well, TerraN is definitely dominating game one. Erik is going to try to make magic happen with his last few lurkers and hydras. But I think Erik also knows that the writing is on the wall for this one. This TerraN army is a little too advanced to potentially take down with, well, long distance mining.
Yeah, I mean, what is there left to be said here? When my TerraN opponent is on 7 base and I'm on 0, I usually leave. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe this links.
You're such a quitter, Cats. You're such a quitter.
No, yeah, I think I'm a quitter. I think that's what it is.
Erik does find the tank. His economy is in shambles. So, I mean, I can understand that he feels a little more hopeful about the game after sniping that orbiter on the left side. He's like, if I do that one more time, I'm probably completely back in it. Not really.
Yeah. 6 more times.
Yeah, then we're getting somewhere. Now the lurk is getting obliterated. A few fungals do land. And a lightning cloud on the tank. The spellcasting is perfect here by Erik. And he's actually going to hold. And now he will really believe that he can still win this game. I can't blame him. Man, that was all so good by Erik. That was a perfect wombo combo of blinding cloud, abduct, fungal. Well done.
It was very well done. I mean, he's definitely showcasing that he can cast all the spells, but is it a little too late? Yes, it is. And this lurkers, I mean, the lurker flag.
Oh my god! The lurker is getting the best shots possible, and it's still not quite good enough. The last few hydras are going to fall. And that is finally going to do it. But Erik actually made that game a little closer in the end than it should have been. But it will be the Brazilian TerraN player, TerraN, who takes the 1-0 lead. And is now one map away from making it into the playoffs for the first time in his career of a DreamHack SC2 Masters event.
Very, very cool. It really looked like Erik, if he, it looked like he almost handed the game over to a better player than him, right? Like the first half and the second half, when he was working with so little, he made a lot happen. So maybe if he can step it up from the beginning, I think we could at least see a game 3 here. I'd like that.
Yeah, of course, we lost 18 drones and 2 queens against the Hellions. That definitely didn't help. That just made it a bit more difficult for Erik to actually get himself in a good spot. He had a sick play with the lurkers. The lurkers on hold position. You don't see that every day. Got some beautiful shots off, and it definitely allowed him to stay in the game a bit longer. Then he tried it again a bit later, but I also loved it by TerraN. He learned from that immediately, and even though he didn't know that Erik knew he was coming in the top left side, he still just threw down the scan immediately, a just in case kind of scan, and that was very well done, because that could have been a disaster.
Yes, indeed. So we'll see what happens in this next game. TerraN needs a minute to go to the toilet, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about Paco Mike.
Yes, talk to me about Paco Mike, because the last season you gave me not necessarily a story, but you explained the nickname of Paco Mike. And I remember it took a while, but I did like it. And now yesterday I had to cast Paco Mike, and somebody said, I like his nickname. And I was like, there's a good story behind the name, but I didn't know it, Cats. I was like, we need Cats. And here you are today. So talk to me about Paco Mike.
Yeah, I've looked further into it. But yeah, Paco basically is what they called Francisco, and Mike is English for Miguel. So I guessed that his name was Francisco Miguel, but there is more to the etymology of Paco Mike, right? I mean, we could go back pretty far. For instance, the name Francisco is Italian, but it comes from or is Spanish, but it comes from Italian Francesco, which in turn comes from France, like in Italy, like I guess in Italy, if there was a French person, they would have called him Francesco, or maybe of French descent, right? And France, of course, comes from the Franks that occupied the territory in during the civilization. They were a West Germanic civilization in the Middle Ages. But then eventually, right, we get to Francisco, which is the Spanish name. And how does that turn into Paco? You might be asking.
Yes, that's definitely what I'm asking myself right now.
And Paco is a really weird one because it comes from Saint Francis, right? Saint Francis was a saint, I guess, and he was known as Pater Communitatis, which is father of the community, or Padre de la Comunidad, in Latin. So from Pater Communitatis comes the first 2 bits, which is Pa and Co. And so Francisco was called Paco, short for. So there you go. That's
I
where
love
Paco
it, cats. Thank you so much. The highlight of the day, without a shadow of a doubt. Thank you so much. As
My
we are getting ready to hop into game 2 of these two dudes. One map away is this man from making it into the playoffs for the first time in his career. Unfortunately, he is not called Paco Mike, but he is called TerraN. Oh my god.
And in the top left-hand side, it is looking to make a comeback from Cranky Ducklings, Erik.
Oh my
Erik
god.
with a K, by the way, so it's Nordic. But we won't get into that.
Related to Francesco, the Franks instead, by any chance? No?
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a couple of famous Eriks in the history. Let's look it up. Where
Yeah,
does
there's
the
gotta
name
be.
Erik come from?
I think it's a Viking name with a K, but there's Erik with a C. I think it's not like it's from somewhere else. Yeah. At least that's what I understood before of the name Erik. Because I have a friend named Erik with a K in Peru as well.
You're correct. It's an Old Norse name from Eirikr.
Very cool.
You're just on the money with the names, cats. Do you know
I
where
like
Rotterdam comes from?
I do not. Do you? Do tell.
Yeah, absolutely. There used to be a river in the Netherlands called the Rotte, R-O-T-T-E, and then eventually they built a dam somewhere on the Rotte, and they formed a city around the dam, and then they started Rotterdam.
Nice. Pretty straightforward then.
Yeah.
Rotterdam. That's awesome.
I mean, it's not as cool as Francisco and Paco Mike, but you know, maybe I taught you something too.
It's pretty great that a city could grow from those beginnings, right? Like from a den. Yeah, that's from a dam. Yeah.
All right, Lightshade is going to be our battleground here for game 2. As you guys can see, it's been a long day for us, but hopefully you guys had fun watching all these games of the second play day of the DreamHack SC2 Masters. But this is a big one. Obviously, these players, they live for moments like this. Erik and TerraN don't often play for this amount of money, so very important best of 3 for them. And let's see what game 2 has in store for us.
Yeah, very good Reaper micro here to start off from TerraN. The Queen will pop out, and we'll say goodbye to that Reaper. It's so rare that we see Circs these days lose any Circlings, and they just make 4, right? Like,
Boom.
back in my day, we always lost a bunch of Circlings to the first Reaper. And it was okay, you know?
It's like, you lose 2 Zerglings, but I didn't lose a drone though. So
Exactly, yeah,
good.
exactly. Yeah. Pretty good. No drones lost.
I do think you see it a bit more on the smaller maps, right? Like how we had Submarine last season, and now if we would see Beckett, I think there's a very good chance that Clem on average will get 2 Zerglings and a drone on Beckett Industries.
And the drone, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, Clem is pretty nuts like that. We'll see if this Reaper gets anything else. It's still trying, but speed is going to be done relatively soon, though. So this Reaper needs to start heading back home soon. And of course, TerraN knows.
TerraN is playing a very different build order here, though, in game 2. Because last game he went for the ultra-quick triple CC. This time he's staying on 2 command centers, and he's going for a much quicker Banshees by the looks of it. So it's a 2-base Heli and Banshee opening.
Very interesting indeed. Banshees are, of course, going to be pretty good against Roaches, and this map is a pretty good Roach map because the rush distance is short, even though the map is relatively large otherwise. So I like the choice here from TerraN. It seems kind of safe, and it worked out even on the larger map, right? Like those Banshees did good, and Erik really didn't have the best positioning with his spores. Usually when you're anticipating Banshees as opposed to Liberators, I guess, or Medevacs, you want to position your spore a little bit like a hex out to where the Banshee is going to enter, like a hex to the, like whereas he was doing it just like this, instead of in the middle, 1 hex to the right, so that it covers more area.
All right, we'll see if the spore comes into play or not. There is a 3rd command center going now 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, so we're not going to get anything ultra wild here out of TerraN. He doesn't get Cloak. I don't know if he ever started Cloak and then cancelled it, but Cloak is definitely not finished up. Doors are kind of wide open. It's mostly Zerglings here. Are these Hellions going to go for a little adventure? Well, he's going in quite deep. He's going in really deep, and that means that these Hellions are going to get surrounded. Getting decent shots off on the links, but not too many drones yet.
Yeah, but that was unbelievable for me. I mean, yeah, 6 drones and a good chunk of links as well that Erik's having to remake. And to be honest, I thought that Erik was gonna deal with this so great. I thought that he was setting up to clear this out. It was a great trap, but yeah, I mean, TerraN wiggled his way out.
The trap kind of backfired. So 6 Hellions and the Banshee did go down. In return, 15 Zerglings and 8 drones went down.
Yeah,
It's
this
not
is
too
actually
bad
pretty
for
cool.
Erik.
I do love the Liberator follow-up because of what we were talking about with the Spores, right? Like the Spores are positioned for Banshees. So the Liberator is likely to find a spot where it can at least siege without being sieged itself by a Spore. So that's kind of cool. I never see that.
I love how you included me in there. You like how we were talking about the Spores. That was all you, mate. I didn't talk about the Spores. I was just patiently listening and taking notes while you were talking about the Spores.
Yeah, but Spores are, you know, like, Roddy, don't do that, man. I don't know how to reply now. Like, I mean, I learned so much from you, so yeah.
Yeah, I learned that from you. And look at these Hellions, by the way, getting 14 drones. As the Liberator is trying to find some damage, also grabbing 3 drones apparently, or maybe 1 Zergling. Sporecrawler is moving around. TerraN is he's very good in finding the follow-up damage, right? Every single time he attacks, you're like, that was alright. But then he just surprises us like 20-30 seconds later by finding even more damage he did the first time.
Yeah, he has been really, really good with those Hellions. It's so scary to go into creep and against Zerglings, but he really knows how to shoot those Hellions, right? Like how to find those lines of fire, what units to target to get the maximum value. And that's exactly what he's doing. And that seems to be where he thrives and where he gets the advantages. But we saw Erik kind of stabilize. And towards the later stages of the game, it seemed like Erik was kind of in his comfort zone, just didn't have enough to work with. So this game is still up in the air in my book.
Yeah, Erik is at 65 drones at this point. He's going to squeeze out a few more. The 1-1 upgrades are early. He's a little bit behind our TerraN, but not all that much. I feel like we need to catch a break somewhere though over on Team Erik, right? Maybe a little Ling run by if TerraN is moving out, get some Lings into the natural, something along those lines. Because if we're just going to sit back and defend, I'm afraid that eventually TerraN is going to take control of the map.
Yeah, I mean, the creep spread for Erik is pretty good at least. So he has that going for him. And look at this wall though from TerraN. And we saw something very similar in the last map as well. It's, again, not something that I see from every TerraN player. And I like it. I like it a lot.
I have to admit, I have a hard time focusing. I'm still thinking about Francisco and Paco Mike. It just makes me really happy. It's such a good little explanation of the name.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, no Paco Mike for us today, guys. But maybe in Season 2. DreamHack in the fall.
That would be good. That would be cool. So Widow Mines are going to be joining the fray on the side of TerraN as well as he's researching the Widow Mine upgrade. There is, however, a tank push that's showing up before that and no Widow Mines in production just yet. So this seems to be a little bit of a trend that people are getting the upgrade and not getting the Widow Mines.
Yeah, I guess you can really see the downside of being as crazy with your Hellions as TerraN was this game. Killing drones is awesome, but yeah, the creep is starting to get a bit out of control, right? If we would have kept those Hellions alive for a bit longer, it would have been easier to maybe contain the creep. Because now you look at the mini-map and it starts to look pretty intimidating.
Yes, indeed. I love the tanks being preloaded, however, so that they can unload as quickly as possible. And he will get a very annoying position here, hugging that wall so that the tanks can get fully surrounded. TerraN is going to be pushing up with a few Marines, but in the back he has the brunt of his army. Erik has a good chunk of units and also Mutas available.
Oh no! The Banelings in range of the tanks there. So Erik losing quite a few Banes, losing a few more Banelings. I mean, this positioning is insane by TerraN. I didn't even think about this being a potential angle to attack. I love the Liberator to secure the spot. TerraN is playing so well, man.
He really is, and this is a similar move that got him the big advantage in the previous game as well, just spreading 2 large armies on either side. It's very dangerous to do this against the likes of Banelings because of exactly this. If you're not looking for a second at either side, that can happen. And now Erik might have enough breathing room that he can clear this off, but he needs to pull back quickly with those Mutas to punish those medevacs. TerraN is not going to be able to find much more in the main, so overall a good defense for Erik.
I wish the Terran would have just left 4 or 5 Marines near the tanks, right? It's okay to have 3 Marines on the high ground. They're protected by the tanks anyway, and then you can always debate those Mutas. I wish he would have left a few Marines protecting that Liberator and the 2 tanks, because I think it was very annoying for Erik. And I think he was going to have a hard time cleaning it up eventually if it wasn't for the fact that we just lost all our Marines.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, furthermore, right? Like, if you have all your Marines clumped up, then he can get cleaned off, because you can't possibly look at both places at the exact same time, right? So he's not going to be looking at some point, and Erik finds that weak spot and exploits it. We'll see if it's enough for him, as he's still trailing supply here, and those Widow Mines could be really scary. The Muta going after the bunker. The Thor is going to dissuade him from going any further into that base, but instead he will jump into the main, where there isn't really any turrets. The Thor is a little bit exposed.
I'm kind of worried here for Erik. Even though he's doing a good job so far with the Mutas, he is going to be able to get the Thor, the Widow Mines. No, those are not burrowed. One of them was not burrowed. That could have potentially fired. And it feels like it was an insane amount of Mutas, and it's still a lot of Mutas on the map. We've only lost 5. That felt like way more than 20 Mutalists, but maybe it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good chunk. It's pretty difficult to deal with that many. And they can definitely take down that Thor as they did. Erik is now moving out and sectioning off some Banelings. Does he have Burrow?
Yes, Burrow is done.
Pretty cool. So it'll be good to see if he sets up some Baneling traps. It looks... Oh, he's already got one set up, actually, moving in between or in that annoying ramp. That's a really annoying location to siege with the siege tanks right there. Yeah, thank you, Niall. Or Enjal, as they call him.
I've tried. I did not succeed.
Calling him Enjal?
Niall.
Or Niall?
Yeah, Niall.
Niall.
It's like one of those, like, hey, Niall, it's Niall. It's like, oh, what? I thought that's what I said. A Swedish observer doing a great job. Oh, we do have burrowed Banelings there too, but Erik doesn't want to reveal that just yet. Has to be careful with these Mutas, man. There are so many Widow Mines around. Actually, only 6 of them, but it feels like all 6 of them are around the orbital, so he needs to be real careful.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like that, because, you know, one Widow Mine is not that scary for the Mutas unless there's a lot of Marines or a Thor to capitalize, but multiple can be really nasty. TerraN trying to look and find more damage, but hasn't been able to yet. Now there is more burrowed Banelings coming up chokes, so it's going to be difficult for TerraN to apply more pressure.
I love the SCV
Erik,
here.
Yeah, I don't know what that's doing there, poor guy. Doesn't even get loaded.
These two are very evenly matched.
They are.
I really see it.
Yeah, it's a great game so far. Both players now transitioning into the late game as Erik is going to finish his hive. And TerraN still has a little bit of a timing with that 3-3 finishing up for him, and Erik just starting his. So we'll see if he's able to exploit that. But like I said, there's also those burrowed Banelings that could be a nuisance moving forward.
Yep, but there is a lot of creep, and that's almost working against the burrowed Banelings, right? Because then TerraN is obviously always going to scan. So you need to put those Banelings very far forward, and then it's unlikely that the entire TerraN army is going to be there. But I like what TerraN is doing. I like what Erik is doing. They're both setting up traps. Erik is incredibly heavy on the Zerglings, I just noticed. He's got 103 Zerglings out on the map at this point.
Yeah, I actually love the Ultras here because there's so few Marauders. There is some Widow Mines, which are not completely horrible against Ultras, but predominantly the army of TerraN is mostly Marines, and they are going to suffer against this Baneling Mine potentially. Bye-bye! Hello!
Mate! Oh my god, I haven't been teased this hard since high school, mate. What the hell was that?
Since high school. I won't inquire further, but...
I thought I had a date, but I didn't.
Aw.
Kidding. No. Wow, that's insane. Erik could have had the shot of a lifetime. Instead, he didn't. Now he still needs to worry about his army. There's quite a few Marines left. Obviously, TerraN wouldn't be TerraN with something else happening on the map. And we have that tiny drop taking place at 9 o'clock. But even a tiny drop can be very annoying to deal with. Oh.
Yeah, definitely. Stepping a little bit far on creep there. So these Banelings are mostly going to connect. The Thor doing what it can. And actually, a lot of Muta have gone down. But overall, it's a defense on the side of Erik, who still has a bank. It hurts to lose this base a little bit, but I mean, he's in a pretty good spot now. And imagine what it could have been if those Banelings go off.
Yeah, that would have been the perfect shot, right? It would have been one of the bigger burrowed baneling connections we've seen in a little while. He's still in a good spot, so obviously no man overboard. TerraN lost most of his units in the end and is clearly struggling trying to get his 5 bases up and running.
Yeah, and Eric's now gonna have ultras, and he can get those ultras to this side before that PF is finished. He could even, he will bait some sort of an army here to deal with the circlings and the burrowed circling as well. So here he could strike. He could strike anywhere he wants with these ultras. Well, what did he just kill? Maybe a mine or something?
Yeah, that was a mine in the center.
But I don't like him waiting, really, because now TerraN gets to kind of decide what to make against those ultras. So he could add liberators. He's gonna start adding more marauders, and you see 2 marauders now in production, whereas before it was 1 marauder, 6 marines all the time. So yeah, I would have liked for Erik to exploit his first show of the ultras before TerraN was situated, especially at that 5th base. So giving him a little bit too much time for no reason.
Mine drops in the bottom, getting a very juicy connection there. 11 drones will fall. You know what's been interesting? I took a look at the units lost resource tab, and they've actually been losing around the same amount of resources in this game. And I'm like, has Erik really been out mining TerraN that hard? And then you take a look at the income advantage over the last 5 to 10 minutes, and you're like, he actually has. So Erik has been mining way more, which obviously means he's going to mine out a little bit earlier too, as he's going to have to make some magic happen soon, because we're not going to do anything. He's going to be out of money eventually.
Oh, wow.
And TerraN will not be.
Yeah, that was a 2-for-1 special for those banelings, though, getting rid of an orbital and a planetary all at once. So a nice setup here from Erik, finally capitalizing off of his economical lead at this point, because at that point it wasn't so much an army lead anymore. Like I said, I think that he really, as soon as he got maxed, I would have liked to see him push onto that 5th with the ultras before it was a PF, before there were the turrets there, when there was less army on the side of TerraN. But at least he capitalizes on the right-hand side, and that's pretty nice for him. He's going to continue to mine a lot more.
That's an adventurous drop if I've ever seen one. Deep into creep in the middle of 5 bases, surrounded by zerglings and queens. This one is not going to get too much done, so Erik will be able to create more freedom for himself. Goes back into Miras. Right after he lost the last few Miras in the bottom side, trying to take out the tank, he's going to fire up 11 more. Will make his life a bit easier in dealing with these medevacs, I guess.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that that's what he just identified with that one medevac that was across the map. He was like, okay, well, I can't deal with that one, really. If he loads back up, there wasn't much that he could have done to chase it. So make some mutas, I think, just for that. And starts the Greater Spire at the same time. So there is a potential for a Broodlord switch coming up as well.
Yeah, I'm with you, though, about the 5th base, right? That's something you kind of want to do something about. It's maybe a little bit too late to do something about the base in the bottom. But since TerraN has an orbital now on the top right, I'd like to see him just keep pouncing on that one. We're maxed out. We've got money in the bank. We don't just want to sit at home and let the TerraN improve the quality of their army. Because a couple ghosts is not that intimidating. But if TerraN can get up to 10 or 12 ghosts, well, I think we're all very familiar with the pew-pew sound.
Yes, indeed. And these Mutalisks are a little bit scary as well, in the sense that he made so many of them that, you know, he can snowball if he finds an opening where he kills one of those turrets, like Cyril was kind of doing against Sol. That could be amazing, but if he runs into mines or Thors, it could be devastating. However, in this case, it's going to work out well, and these mutas are actually going to help secure a kill and not just a lift-off this time around. So works out really good for Erik.
And this really hurts for TerraN. Because TerraN is not rich at all. He is not maxed out, does not have any money in the bank. So when we then start losing orbitals, that's not really a situation where you can just drop the next one and be totally fine. And I love that Erik is also taking both bases in the center. The burrowed banelings, finally!
Finally! Very nice. Oh, no cancel though. So.
I mean, army supply, we're dead even, cats.
Yeah, this is a little bit scary of an army from TerraN, especially because there's so much supply committed onto those muta. They're not great fighting units, but this PF going down would be huge.
So close, so close.
Yeah. That was super questionable, right? Like, you usually want to go after the SCVs with those banelings, and he almost doesn't get it because of that. And he could have gotten SCVs in the process as well. So a little bit questionable, but maybe he was paying attention to this side, which he is going to be able to clear out. Especially thanks to that baneling detonation earlier, right? There's no Marines, and just the Thor is gonna suffer to deal with those muta.
Sick game though, as TerraN is still dropping in the bottom left side. He's gonna try to take out the hatchery and he will succeed in doing so, but losing the planetary at the bottom is very painful, especially right after losing that army in the top side. And there is only so much that these 6 or 7 very brave Marines can accomplish. Erik is starting to take more and more control of this map. And it definitely feels like we're getting a decider match between these two, and that's perhaps the way it should be.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it all is that both games have kind of been the same but mirrored, right? In the sense that now it's Erik that has all the control and continues to snowball and continues to kind of choke out TerraN, who is just unable to do anything. He's gonna get punished over and over on either side, and this is looking like it, unless TerraN stays, like Erik stayed. Maybe it's a taste of his own medicine.
Finds another orbital. TerraN is really running out of bases. It's hard to run into these fancy bunkers with not 4 but 6 Marines inside of them. And I don't think it's going to make the difference. And that is going to do it. Erik ties up this very important series. And we're going to have a decider match between these two to figure out who's going to make an appearance in the playoffs of the DreamHack SC2 Masters Summer. I'm loving it, cats. These two are living up to the hype.
And they really are, and they're super evenly matched, like you said. So it was always a toss-up, I think, between these two. And Game 3 is going to be amazing, but you're going to have to wait just a couple minutes for it because we're going to a break.
Welcome back to the DreamHack StarCraft 2 Masters Summer, where we are about to find out who is going to join special in the playoffs of the Latin American region. Don't want to call it a qualifier, even though we're all technically qualifying for the season finals, but we'll worry about that later. Regional pride is on the line here, cats.
Yes, indeed. And it's a lot of pride, also extra regional pride. We were talking about it. This is for the King of Brazil, the man of the house, as you have called it. So we'll see who stands tall there.
Let's get it on.
Yeah, let's do it. And spawning. Oh, you do it.
You do it. No, it's all you,
okay,
matey.
fine.
It's all you.
Fine. Okay, I got it. Spawning. In the bottom right-hand side, trying to be the man of the house for the first time. It is TerraN.
And in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the Zerg player who wants to let Calazur know that everything is fine over in Brazil and he's still in control of the house. It's Erik.
I like that. He wants to let Calazur know that everything's fine. As if TerraN taking over was like some sort of riot. I guess it kind of is, huh?
It is, huh? The little brother is standing up to the big brother.
He really is.
And Erik is like, don't worry, Dad, I've got this under control. And Calazur is like, you better, otherwise I'm flying back home.
Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. I mean, he might have to fly back home to put things in order at some point.
Especially if TerraN keeps getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's also like contesting for the race at that point, right? Like for the TerraN race.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking everything that Calazur has worked for. He might even join Team Liquid. He's like, Calazur, get out of my team.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate insult. And maybe eventually we'll see it. I mean, Calazur is a little bit of a veteran. And TerraN, to be honest, he's extra exciting because we really haven't seen much of him before, right? Like he is an up-and-comer, and we don't get a lot of those from the Latin American region. It's usually the three established players in Calazur, Cham, and Special, with Erik coming as a contender, but he has been a contender for like 5 years now. So it's good to see TerraN contesting.
That would be even crazier, mate. TerraN moves to Europe and starts showing off his Reaper Micro on the European server and takes away the praise and title of Calazur being the best Reaper player on the European server.
That would be amazing. Pushing Clem to third.
Yeah. Clem is like, what the hell is that? I'm still beating Reiner and Sarah. It's like, it's not about you, Clem. Not everything is about you. This is between TerraN and Calazur. Stay out of it.
All right, so we see Erik taking that forward hatchery that we've been talking about all day long on this particular map. That is good to see. It's going to help him with the creep spread, which has been really good from him. And there's the Reaper Micro. Wants to contest, but not quite ready to take a creep tumor yet.
Not quite there yet. Needs to spend some time in Europe, mate.
He does. These links are going to make their way across the map, but they're a second too late. A nice micro there. Loading the SCV very quickly onto the command center, but there's no extra units. Actually, there is one Marine.
Yeah, one Marine. One Marine is okay. We're not gonna lose anything.
Oh, very close.
That man had confidence in his one Marine. Ooh, once more, relatively early Roach Warren, but we are still droning up. So it seems like Erik is just kind of going back to what he was doing in game one. That's obviously a little bit different to see the timing on those two Roaches and then the two Ravages to keep the Hellions at bay. But I didn't hate it, Cats. It's just different, you know? Sometimes you have to get used to something.
Yeah, I liked it. It wasn't too bad. It's a little bit earlier of an investment, but it's less of an investment than you would make into links and link speed and the likes. Now, it is a little bit troublesome in the sense that, you know, like then you have no link speed. Like that, you know, that feels so bad as a Zerg. But maybe on Romanticide of all maps, you can kind of easily secure 4 bases, and maybe that's enough. A drone is not gonna get picked off, actually.
Oh.
TerraN missing an opportunity there.
Yeah, I feel like he just kind of tried to kill the larva there. That's not something we see very often either, but not the worst idea. The downside is that when they do more of the larva into a drone at the last moment, all your work was for nothing. In the end, we did get 1 or 2 creep tumors, so it's a little something for TerraN to work with.
Yeah, not that big of an investment either. And like you said before, it's just going to be defensive Roaches with a couple of Ravagers on the side of Erik in order to try and defend. And another Banshee opening for the 3rd time in a row from TerraN. So, I mean, Banshees are pretty good against this Roach Ravager.
Once the door is wide open, and I actually thought that Erik was going to lose multiple drones there immediately right off the get-go. Fortunately for Erik and perhaps all of us, that did not work. This Ravager is a little bit lost. Are we going to lose a Ravager against Hellions?
It looks like barely we won't, but the way that they were trading positions made me think that the Hellions could even go back and pick off a couple drones, right? Because all of they had essentially switched places at that point. But TerraN being cautious this time around, he has a lot more Hellions where those few at the front came from. So we're gonna see him consolidate and potentially go for another run by. He's been liking those.
Erik going up to 4 bases on the left side, so he's not even taking the triangle base as his 4th. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting. We saw the game, was it Serral versus Sol, that we saw it split this way as well, like develop kind of in the same pattern. So maybe that's kind of the new flavor.
But Serral definitely did take his triangle base eventually, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely did a little bit sooner than this.
Yep. Now the Hellions have morphed into Hellbats. The Roach count is still at 2. The Ravager count is at 2. If all these Hellbats just get right on top of these queens, this can actually become a little bit problematic. And TerraN is still just moving forward. Can we get on top of the drones? It's so close. But we won't get those shots up.
Yeah, it's such a daring move, though, to go for Hellbats when you know that your opponent opened Roaches. And you can see that even though Erik didn't add any additional units... Oh, be careful there. Oh, why?
You gotta fix the rally point. Okay. Oh, more drones are coming back. More drones. Hello.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, 7 too many to lose there. But all in all, not too bad from Erik. And again, I'm surprised that TerraN went for a Hellbat attack onto a player that was already going Roach Ravager, because Erik didn't even add any additional Roach Ravager, and he still held. So, I mean, that's just how good they are against Hellbats.
It's one of these things that doesn't make any sense, but sometimes the things that don't make any sense are actually very good. You know, it's like Goblin complained for a while about the negative IQ Oracle in PvP, where if you have Phoenixes out, your opponent shouldn't make Oracles, right? But then they somehow do make an Oracle, and then you start molding when you lose 7 probes against an Oracle that shouldn't be there in the first place. Sometimes that logic can apply to TVZ too.
And that is very true. I mean, a lot of European Zergs have complained about the random Korean Ling Rambais, and they have continued to thrive in that matchup too, so...
Sport Crawler not done yet, but TerraN not finding too much damage. Does grab 2 drones though. What's happening in the natural? A couple of Hellions trying to get lucky. Won't get all that lucky. Well, we've got a proper game, because I don't think that Erik, with the composition he's heading towards, has any opportunity to end the game anytime soon. I mean, sure, Roaches with 1-1 are powerful, but should never be able to win the game off creep. I think we're in for a long one, Cats.
Yeah, I think we're seeing him go back to his comfort zone as he did in the first game, only this time he didn't take, you know, game-ending damage early on. So it's looking pretty good for Erik, I want to say. If he can get to those lurkers, it'll look even better. But TerraN is certainly going to have something to say about it.
We're getting +1 melee now too, so we can definitely head into Banelings a little bit down the line. We don't have a Baneling nest yet. I hope Erik won't forget about it. Maybe he doesn't want to have it too early, but we're getting melee upgrades. We do want to get Zergling speed, and we want to get Baneling speed.
We sure do. So yeah, I'm not sure what the melee is about, to be honest. Yeah, melee and speed at the same time is not something that we usually see. 2 additional factories on the side of TerraN, which I really like. If he's anticipating lurkers especially, he's gonna need a lot of tanks, and maybe he can hit a timing where he has a lot of tanks and there's no Vipers out or something of the likes.
Nidus?
Oh, Nidus.
What?
Oh.
What?
I like it. It's one of the very few ways to be aggressive on this map onto those 3 bases in particular. So I think that when TerraN takes his 4th, there might be an opening where maybe Erik can sneak inside and kill something. These Overlords are out of position, but there's only 4 Marines in this drop, and now with the Hydras, no Overlord will be dead.
Imagine if you just joined the stream and you take a look at the production tab and you see Zergling speed, +1 melee, Hydras, Nidus, Roaches. You're like, what the hell? An infestation pit? Like, what did I just stumble into? It's kind of odd. No, that's a very rare production tab.
It really is, especially the melee is what really throws me off here. But yeah, I like it. And now here is that 4th base that we were talking about. It's gonna land, and I think that this could be an opening where Erik can start to make things happen. He's also adding those additional spine crawlers that he added in the first game of the series to try and be a little bit safer. Oh,
he messed up his dropper lords. Like the Hydras just went underneath the dropper lords.
Oh,
so
no.
oh no, and he's running straight into the Terran army. Stim goes down and all 3 dropper lords will fall. Oh, that is a big donation from Erik to Terran.
yeah, it's a huge one indeed. At least he's gonna find himself a sensor tower and actually a cancel onto the PF for the time being. Maybe force a lift off, but a good job from TerraN not lifting off before his forces arrive so that the units can clean up. A very strong position now from TerraN. We'll see if the bios are good enough to get rid of these tanks in a timely manner. And with the flank, it looks like they will be.
I mean, that's 4 or 5 tanks. One of the tanks was not sieged up immediately, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed by Erik, able to clean this up as quickly as he did. I thought it was gonna get even worse. He obviously did lose a lot of units in the last minute and a half, but we've made it to Hive, and the first Vipers are on the way, so maybe there is a chance to live to fight another day.
Yeah, these Hydras are in good position now to do the same thing to TerraN that TerraN did to him, but TerraN's gonna be a little bit faster to react. And we'll turn around. He didn't have the thrusters right away. And look at that. Daring man. He's going to go back for it.
Goes back into the main. Erik should be able to see this with his Overlord that is there to scout. TerraN didn't want to reveal it yet, so he turns around and he wants to boost into the main base again. This gives me an idea, Cats. What if Dropper Lords also had a boost?
Yes. Yes, David Kim, get on it.
That'd be cool, no? And War Prisms.
I don't know, man.
Come on. A little boost has never hurt anyone, Cats.
I don't know, Roddy. I feel like you were trying to bait me to say Overlords yes, and then you thought I was gonna get on your side for the War Prisms.
All right, big drop happening in the back of the main. There are Vipers in the mix. I wouldn't hate a parasitic bomb. I like that, man. Like sometimes if you have a bit of extra energy and you know the game deciding fight is not about to take place, just drop a parasitic bomb. But yeah, TerraN is making good progress in the bottom. The Lurkers going forward and they will be able to burrow. We need to scan again if we're TerraN. What a crazy game. What a crazy fight.
Yeah, those vials a little bit late and actually not focusing on the right tank. A lot of the Lurkers will go down. And TerraN will still have forces remaining on the side of the map as well as on the other side. With his drop, those Lurkers are really out of position on the side of Erik. They are not mobile enough to be chasing armies around. And TerraN with a very nice minute there.
There are a few Marines remaining in the main. I didn't even see those. I grabbed a few extra drones. Yeah, it looked super nice for TerraN, and I think in the end it was nice because he is taking the economic lead. We also built 2 sensor towers right next to each other. I think that's kind of cute. That just shows that these guys definitely feeling the pressure and a lot of things happening at the same time. Erik just likes to go up to a ridiculous amount of Lurkers, right? That's just kind of his thing, where he doesn't have too many units to begin with. And it's not that he's like, okay, I'm going to get a couple spellcasters to potentially get a great fight. He's just like, no, 16 Lurkers, and I'm going to take a great fight with these 16 Lurkers, and then we'll start complementing our Lurkers a little bit with a couple spellcasters.
Yes, indeed. There is a little bit of an attempt here from Erik onto the army of TerraN, but their Lurkers were not there yet. The tanks are not sieged, however, so that's a lot of ground that Erik is going to be able to gain to move forward, and that was a delicious Lurker shot. He's going to continue to move on forward. I mean, these tanks are just, the bane of TerraN right now. If they're not situated when they need to be, then the Lurkers are going to gain an amazing position. All of these SCVs will fall, and this is a much-needed punch from Erik.
That Nidus. We still have the Nidus. The Nidus network is going down in the main base, but the Lurkers are going to move forward one more time. A little bit adventurous, but the Blinding Cloud on the tanks is absolutely perfect. The Planetary is trying to do whatever it can to keep those tanks alive. Will not succeed, and Erik has taken the supply lead, and there is really nothing that TerraN has that's good against all these Lurkers.
Yeah, I would really like to see Erik once again just burrow a little bit closer to the PF, but it's not going to matter. That's plenty. I mean, he has the range upgrade as well, and this is actually looking all Erik in the last minute. The Nidus doesn't go up. It's nicely denied by TerraN, but I think just losing that many tanks without sieging was a little too harsh for him.
All 3 tanks being clumped up there, I think really it just hurt him, and losing all the tanks obviously in the bottom left side too. Yeah, in a way it makes sense what Erik is doing, right? Just morphing basically 16 Hydras into Lurkers and attacking with what feels like almost nothing but Lurkers. A few Hydras, a few Lynx, sure 1 Viper, but it's all about the Lurkers there. But since TerraN is so heavy on the Marines and Marauders and doesn't really have a lot else, yeah, it makes sense. Why make anything else other than Lurkers?
And yes, indeed, especially after resetting that tank count, and maybe TerraN shouldn't have moved out. I mean, my coach Jehefe, my TerraN coach, he actually told me, there's a certain point in time where you just gotta stop attacking against lurkers because you're just not gonna kill them, and that's kind of what killed TerraN here, right? It's like he tried to attack onto so many lurkers, he got caught in the middle of the map. And as a result, he doesn't really have that transition where he can actually deal with the lurkers with the likes of ghosts, liberators, and just anchoring with those tanks. Because if the tanks are sieged, the lurkers can't do this.
Another planetary falls and things are going from bad to worse for TerraN. He is getting his first ghost out on the battlefield. We've got 2 at this point and 2 additional ghosts are about to pop. Why don't we try to take the base at the Rich Vespian, guys, and mine out those minerals, just throw it on the high ground or something. There's anything to make this game go on for a little bit longer and increase that ghost count.
Yes, indeed. He's gonna try to do whatever he can. There's spines going up at the exposed bases of Erik, so that's really nice to see from him. Taking every preventive measure that he can. Will burrow 3 links just to make sure that 1 gets burrowed, and will force a scan as a result. Now, scans are not only mules at this point, they're also, like, even if you don't mule at all, you could run out, just because it's such a heavy lurker game on the side of Erik, and it's the worst feeling when there's lurkers and you just don't have scans.
Things are gonna try to keep this safe. I mean, this could backfire for Erik. I mean, these Hydras are gonna take a lot of damage. The Vipers are coming in, but a scan is given the heads up. Imagine if you can just snipe the Vipers or land an EMP on these Vipers. Then I believe again would be epic if TerraN at least finds himself in a position where he can max out one more time. It is going to be difficult to get there, but I do think it's possible. Why is he moving out, Cats? Mate,
yeah,
go
I'm not
back.
sure. He's doing the same thing as before. It seems like the lurker's not really reacting as quickly as they could, though. So he's at least going to get to siege. And that's a little bit better than last time, at least. I also think it's, right after Erik backed out.
No, one of the depots got taken out at the bottom. The door is still open. Yeah. Wow, perfect timing by Erik.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. He's gonna get a few SCV storage trouble, and he's gonna force that wall to be rebuilt, which means that TerraN's not gonna be able to move out until then. No!
I can't look. I just closed my eyes. Oh, that's gonna be
expensive. Yeah.